Imagine breaking out of your egg as a microscopic larva. Your first move is to jump onto the back of a passing spider, hoping to hitch a ride. But if you target the wrong spider, you get wiped right off with one leg and sent tumbling back into the dirt. This failed attempt is a massive problem. At this stage of life, a mantidfly larva lacks the specialized claws or the speed to hunt for its own food. Its biological clock is ticking, and it only has a few days to live before it starves. To survive, it has to find a very specific target. It waits for a heavier, slower female spider carrying a belly full of developing eggs. The larva leaps again, landing right behind her rear leg, and wedges itself deep between her soft armor plates where she can't feel a thing. The opening hours of this insect's life rely entirely on stealth. It survives by turning into an undetectable stowaway, clinging to a heavily armed host that could crush it in an instant. A larva stays perfectly hidden for days while the spider goes about her life. Eventually, she squeezes into a narrow gap between two rocks and starts spinning her silk egg sac. Right as she finishes layering the walls, the larva crawls down her body and slips through the edge of the silk. This cross-section shows the spider's construction. A solid outer silk barrier protects her offspring. By slipping inside, the larva locks itself in an impenetrable vault. It bites the unprotected eggs, draining the fluid, its body swelling rapidly as it consumes the entire brood. But suddenly, something slams into its side. Another mantidfly larva managed to follow the exact same spider inside the sac. The two siblings instantly lock jaws and claws, tumbling over the silk threads in a close-quarters wrestling match. There isn't enough food for both of them to reach adulthood. The protagonist drags its rival across the web, hooks one leg underneath its body, and violently rips its side open, securing the remaining eggs. The energy required to rebuild a body from scratch is immense. To fund its coming metamorphosis, the mantidfly must secure every calorie available, even if it means annihilating its own kin. 5 weeks later, it tears through a cocoon of its own making. It doesn't look like a grub anymore. It has long legs, sharp compound eyes, folded soft wings, and massive spiked front claws. This diagram illustrates Bayesian mimicry. On the left, a venomous wasp with black and yellow banding. On the right, a harmless insect morphs to match the predator's pattern. When a larger predator approaches, it evaluates the warning colors, calculates the risk, and retreats safely away. The mantidfly puts its new body to work immediately. When a swarm of ants discovers the empty egg sac, one grabs the mantidfly's back leg. In a reflex action, the mantidfly swings its front limbs forward, locking the curved spines to crush the ant's head before launching into the air. But fighting defensively is very different from actively hunting. The mantidfly targets a resting beetle, but its strike is clumsy and knocks the prey away. It tries to ambush a moth, but the moth easily spots the shadow and shoots into the sky. Even with her jagged weapons, she lacks the explosive speed required to strike a moving target. The energy spent on the hunt provides no caloric reward. Facing starvation after days of missed strikes, the mantidfly changes tactics. Instead of chasing fast prey in the open air, it patrols the forest looking for spiderwebs with paralyzed insects already tangled in the threads. It spots a trapped fly, slows its wings, and drops into the grass just beneath the web. Moving carefully, it raises its claws, pulls the fly out of the silk in one clean motion, and flies away just as the spider rushes down to check the vibration. Relying on stolen goods creates a new problem. This territory is crowded, and the mantidfly frequently returns to the best webs only to find older, larger members of its own species already there. During one of these heists, an older, scarred rival missing a leg tries to claim the trapped fly first. The mantidfly strikes her thorax. They lock together, spiraling wildly out of the air and crashing violently into the rough bark of a nearby tree. The larger rival digs her claw deep into our mantidfly's abdomen. In response, the protagonist snaps its jaws blindly forward until it grips something soft, the rival's left eye. With a vicious twist, it tears the eye free, forcing the older insect to stumble away and retreat. Trading hunting for theft replaces the exhausting chase with the necessity of brutal, close-quarters combat against other thieves. Surviving the gauntlet of her early months, the female mantidfly encounters a male on a leaf. Instead of attacking, the male keeps his distance, slowly lowering his abdomen to leave a small white spermatophore on the surface for her to collect. Without warning, a shadow flashes overhead, and a massive bird beak smashes through the branch. The impact splinters the wood instantly. The female dives into the brush by a fraction of a second, but the male's wing folds wrong, and he is killed in the grass. Shaking but alive, the female climbs to a high branch to finish the reproductive process. She deposits her eggs, pressing each one onto the bark in a meticulously spaced straight line. As she steps back to check her work, a low buzz fills the air. A real venomous wasp circles overhead, tilting its wings to scan the mantidfly from the side, closely inspecting the black and yellow pattern. The mantidfly freezes, bracing her legs and tucking her wings low. Lacking a real stinger, she relies entirely on her visual bluff, holding the pose until the wasp accepts the disguise and glides out of the clearing. Her survival depends on pure commitment to the role. By holding her nerve, she turns her visual bluff into a shield stronger than physical armor. Months into her adult life, she stops hiding. She spots a paralyzed lacemane in a web, but this time, when the resident spider jumps out to defend its meal, she fights head-on. She catches the spider by the face, pins its thorax down, and claims the prize. She drags her kill into the grass, eats her fill, and lands on a broad leaf in the warm sun. She cleans the dulled spines on her front legs. She has fed herself, fought off rivals, and successfully laid her eggs, executing every biological directive she was built for. Then an orange blur rises from the grass. It is a massive hornet. The mantidfly assumes her defensive posture, but the mimicry fails. The hornet slams into her chest, wraps its legs around her, and drives a stinger deep into her abdomen, paralyzing her instantly. She dies in the exact pose that kept her alive for months. But directly above her, on the branch she fought so hard to reach, the bark is dotted with her carefully spaced eggs. One of them splits open, and a microscopic larva begins to crawl out. In this ecosystem, nature grants no permanent victories. The sole reward for surviving such a hyper-violent gauntlet is simply giving the next generation the chance to suffer it all over again.